everyone, and welcome to The Balancing Act. I'm Olga Villaverde.
And I'm Monto Williams. Today, insight on your credit score.
Plus, how a neutralizing antibody test can check your body's immune response to contracting COVID-19.
And we're going behind the mystery. The Balancing Act starts right now.
We're all eager to re-engage in post-COVID-19 life. Kids are headed back to school, workers are returning to the office, and arenas are filling up for sporting events and concerts, which is great. As we immerse ourselves back into life, we want to make sure we're doing it safely and efficiently. Knowing our level of protection against the virus could help us do that. Here with more is Lisa Wilson. She is the CEO of Epitome Risk Solutions. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so the vaccine's been really good in terms of helping us get back to our day in and day out activities, right?
Absolutely.
I have a few questions and I want you to answer for me. You ready? All right. We all have the same response to the vaccine. Fact or fiction?
Fiction. So in our lab, we have done a lot of studies on people post-vaccination, and we found that they fall into one of three buckets. One is they had a really strong response to the vaccine, and that strength has lasted for months. The other bucket is a very strong response to the vaccine, but their numbers have waned over time. And the third bucket is no response to the vaccine.
There you go. All right, here's the next one. Once you receive the vaccine, you're protected forever.
Fiction. So Pfizer and Moderna have both publicly stated that their vaccine is good for at least 6 months, but that does not imply forever.
Okay. And here's the last question. There is a way to detect our level of protection from COVID after we have had the virus or received the vaccine.
Fact.
Really?
Yes. So GenScript Biotech Corporation has designed a technology called cPass, which measures your body's response to the vaccine or to previous infection by measuring your neutralizing antibodies that were produced by your immune system.
Explain the neutralizing antibodies.
Yes. So when you're exposed to the vaccine or to a potential infection, your immune system creates all different kinds of antibodies to attack the virus. This test only measures those darts that hit the bullseye. So those antibodies that have attached to the spike protein that comes out of the virus and binds it so that way it cannot attach to your cells.
In fact, just recently, Dr. Anthony Fauci, chief medical advisor to the president, when referring to vaccine data and neutralizing antibody response, said, quote, "First, antibody levels decline over time. Second, higher levels of antibody are associated with higher levels of efficacy of the vaccine. Higher levels of antibody may be required to protect against the problematic Delta variant, and, quote, the higher the neutralizing titer, the higher degree of efficacy of the vaccine," end quote.
So access to testing has been a bit of a roadblock for many people. Maybe not in all areas, but in some. How are you changing that?
So we're really excited because this test has received FDA emergency use authorization, which is a really big deal. We have now made it where you can do this test at home. So we send a test kit to your home. It's a very quick finger prick test method, and you just ship it right back to our lab, and you have results within 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how is this technology utilized? I mean, I'm assuming it's great for just going back to school?
Yes. So going back to school, getting back out into the workforce. I know a lot of companies are very having difficulties getting people back to work right now because everyone's very scared. So for families, getting back out into the world, having that confidence level. I've taken my test. I know where my levels are, and I know that I'm at 97%. So that confidence level of even being right here in this studio right now, I mean, my anxiety level is non-existent, just being out in the world.
Peace of mind.
Absolutely. And then for businesses, knowing that your workforce is safe and that they are being functional and that they are protected, it prevents from shutdowns, it prevents from outbreaks, and there's just so many usages for this test.
Any apps in terms of
Yeah, so we are launching an app now that will give you immediate results. As soon as our lab knows what your results are, it gets pushed right into that app. And it also helps employers to know where their employees stand if they want to opt in. So it takes care of HIPAA waivers and all of that, so that way everybody can know where their workforce is.
Let me ask you this. I got the Pfizer vaccine. Would this test help me determine if I need a booster shot in the future?
We have all been conditioned to look at the date on the calendar to determine whether or not we need a booster shot. With this test, we're able to know where we stand and what our body is saying that we need, right? So when one of our clients tests negative for neutralizing antibodies, we direct them to speak to their medical professional to find out what their next course of action should be, including a booster.
This is really great. For our viewers who'd like more information, where can they go?
They can go to epidemyrisk.com/balancing act. They can learn more about cPass technology and also how to get a test.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
And if you'd like more information, you can go to our website, thebalancingact.com, and we'll be right back. This is really... It's a life-threatening disease that often goes undiagnosed due to non-specific clinical signs and symptoms.
And without timely diagnosis and effective treatment, the median survival is less than 2 months.
Today, one mom's fight for her child and how knowing the initial signs could save a life. Let's go behind the mystery of primary hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis.
What is this?
It's a cow.
Very good, it is a cow. At 34 weeks, I wasn't feeling well. I went to the doctor and they did a kick count and he did not pass. And then they did an ultrasound and the doctor told me I would probably deliver this baby today. Once he was born, they discovered that he had a severely low platelet count. They gave him a blood transfusion, but he was burning through all the cells they were giving him. He had an enlarged spleen, lesions on his brain, blueberry muffin spots all over his body that they biopsied. Nobody really knew what was going on. They were asking us lots of questions. They thought he might have a virus. They were asking us about the genetics in our family. No one knew what was wrong until he was 10 days old.
We met with pediatric hematologist-oncologist Dr. Phillip Roehrs at the University of Virginia to learn more.
Primary HLH is a rare and rapidly progressive and fatal disorder that's often very difficult to diagnose as well as treat. The T cells and NK cells in our body are present to fend off or attack infections once they get inside. Normally, a healthy person gets exposed to a virus. You have cytokines that say, turn on, there's something that I need to fight off, and then there are cytokines that tell those immune cells to calm down. In primary HLH, once that immune system gets triggered by an infection, the genetic defects lead to the impairment of the ability of T cells and NK cells to clear the infection. Those pro-inflammatory cytokines, or the cytokines that turn on the immune system, continue to get pumped out into those patients, and that inflammation continues to cause damage to the vital organs. But if diagnosed and appropriately treated, that inflammation, that damage actually is reversible.
They did a bone marrow biopsy and they told us that they had figured out what was wrong with Camden. We were so excited. We scheduled a meeting and we sat down and they told us he had HLH and that he would not survive the weekend, that he had less than 2 days to live. I was like, is there any chance that he will survive? And they said the only chance he has is we just started him on a steroid and he has to respond to that steroid immediately. I bursted into tears and cried and they gave me a tissue and I just asked for hope. His doctor called us. She was like, you've got to come in, you've got to come see this. She was like, he is responding. And she was ecstatic.
So the majority of patients with primary HLH will present within the first few years of life. However, we have seen that adolescents, young adults, and even older adults have been diagnosed with primary HLH. So the 4 classic signs of HLH are a high fever, elevated ferritin, reduced blood counts, and oversized liver and/or spleen. These are signs and symptoms that we see in many other disorders. And so when we have a patient who does have an infection and they're not responding to appropriate treatment, that should increase our suspicion for primary HLH.
There are 3 ways to diagnose primary HLH: family history, genetic testing to identify the associated mutations, or meeting 5 out of the 8 HLH 2004 diagnostic criteria.
Number 1 is a fever, elevated ferritin, having 2 of 3 blood cell lines decrease, enlarged spleen, decrease or absent NK cell function, having an increase in soluble IL-2 or CD25, having low fibrinogen level and or an elevated triglyceride level, seeing hemophagocytosis in a bone marrow specimen or another organ tissue sample. The criteria should raise our suspicion for primary HLH, but confirming and really making the diagnosis. And we have these newer tools, they can actually pick up and confirm a diagnosis of primary HLH much quicker.
His HLH was still not in control and he was having hyperinflammation. So they told us that he was going to need a bone marrow transplant. Dr. Roehrs offered us a clinical trial drug to help condition him and get him ready for transplant.
So the ultimate goal in primary HLH is to stabilize the patient and control the massive inflammation. And then, unfortunately, to this day, the only known cure for primary HLH is undergoing what's called a hematopoietic stem cell transplant or a bone marrow transplant, where we're actually using another human's immune system that works properly to replace our patient's broken immune system.
What noise does the puppy make?
Camden has PVL, which are holes in the white brain matter from being born prematurely. His HLH also attacked his eyes and he is visually impaired.
It is recommended that a patient be transferred to one of the few high-volume centers around the country who has the knowledge, the expertise, and experience in treating and managing these patients. Important, though, is because we've gotten so much better at diagnosing and treating these children, it's also one of the most impactful parts of my job, which is being able to provide these patients, these parents, the hope that we have a high probability of success to get through this journey.
I want this kitty.
You want to play with Kitty in the dining room? Camden is worth everything to us. He is worth the fight every day, and he is worth every tear we shed in the beginning, and he is worth the battle that you go through with HLH and with transplant. What I would say to Camden is that I'm just so proud of him. A lot of people had their hand in saving his life, but he deserves credit too, because he's the one who held on and fought and was determined to make it through. So we are just so in awe of him and proud of him every day.
For more information on primary HLH, visit suspectphlh.com.
And of course, you can always visit our website, thebalancingact.com. We'll be back right after this. Learning the ins and outs of finance can sometimes be more trial and error, and how to balance your checkbook and what are your credit scores, which is the best credit card. None of these subjects are taught in school. Well, today, we've got answers. Here to help us make sense of our credit score is Cello Colburn, Director of Customer Care at ScoreSense. Welcome, Cello. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Look, you know, it's really tough to understand the credit score. So why don't you break it down for us a little bit? You know, what is your credit score?
So your credit score is a 3-digit number, and it ranges from 300 to 850. Your score is based on credit report information, and you can have a report from the 3 different credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Based on that information, potential financial institutions, credit card providers, even landlords will look at your credit score for your credit risk. For example, some may even associate a lower credit score for higher credit risk. Based on that credit score, we'll determine loan rates, potential credit card interest, and even insurance discounts.
Well, you know, credit scores can be intimidating, and for some, they just don't even want to worry about it at all. So why should we know and care about our score?
I like to think of your scores and reports as your financial resume. It provides potential lenders with your financial history as it relates to your outstanding debt, what type of debt we have, and most importantly, your payment history on that debt. There may come a time where you want or need to use your credit information, and you want to make sure that it works for you and not against you. Based on a case study done by the FTC, 25% of credit reports have an error from one of the credit bureaus. So in knowing and understanding your scores and reports is critical in detecting errors so that you'll understand and be able to minimize any damage that could be potentially happening.
What do you do? How do you get access to that information?
Our ScoreSense website provides you updates and access to all 3 of your credit scores and reports monthly. That allows you to see your credit, gives you credit insights into your credit history, and allows you to see what behaviors are impacting your credit file. We also monitor your credit profile, informing you of potential suspicious activity that may be occurring. We provide credit insights into differences between the 3 credit bureaus, so it's much easier to detect those errors and correct them. And most of all this information is easily accessible on the ScoreSense mobile app.
Well, this is something that you don't learn in school, so how do you guys fill in the gaps?
If you need help, our customer care team is absolutely happy to help, either by phone or via chat. Simply connect with one of them and they'll be happy to guide you through the website or even speak to one of our credit specialists. And they can answer any credit questions you may have or even navigate you through disputing something online. And if you prefer to self-help, on our website, we have Credit Sense articles with range from variety of topics, from credit basics to credit tips and so much more.
Now, you've been with ScoreSense for 10 years?
Yes.
So what's been your major takeaways?
I know that credit can be overwhelming and confusing. So knowing that I have all the information in one location to understand my credit score and reports is key. It helps me to know and the impacts of that credit score and eases it up just a little bit and makes it less intimidating. At ScoreSense, our customers are priority, and we truly do want to walk through your credit journey with you and make it as easy as possible.
If people want more information about ScoreSense, where do they go?
Simply visit scoresense.com.
Wow. Well, of course, you can do that, or you can visit our website, thebalancingact.com. Thank you so much, Stella, for being here.
And thank you for having me.
For sure. We'll be back right after this. Thanks so much for watching today.
Remember to head to our Facebook page and our website and follow us on Twitter.
So, you know what? Take care of that family of yours. See you next time.
Bye-bye.